It's strange how the simplest things can trigger the deepest emotions. For me, it was an ordinary morning walk in the park, something I had done countless times before. The air was crisp, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the sound of distant laughter echoed from a nearby playground. I should have felt at peace, but instead I was overwhelmed by a sense of unease, as if the universe was about to drop something heavy in my lap. I had been divorced for 2 years, but it still felt like Emily was just around the corner. I tried to move on, but the memories lingered. The love, the arguments, the moments we shared, they were all woven into the fabric of who I had become. And yet, the divorce had been a clean break, or so I thought. But that morning everything changed. As I walked past the fountain in the center of the park, I spotted a familiar face. My heart skipped a beat. It was her, Emily. I had to blink a few times to make sure my eyes weren't deceiving me. She was standing there talking to a woman, and from the angle I was at, I couldn't make out the details. But something felt off. I stopped in my tracks. It couldn't be. As Emily turned her head, I got a better look at the woman she was with. My stomach dropped. The woman standing next to her looked exactly like Emily. Identical. Even from a distance, I could see the same sharp cheekbones, the same curve of her lips. It was as if I were seeing a ghost. Or rather, a version of Emily I had never known. But no, it couldn't be. I shook my head, trying to convince myself that my mind was playing tricks. It was just a coincidence. There were plenty of people who looked like others, right? I took another step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. Maybe I was just imagining it. But then Emily turned around. And the moment her eyes met mine, everything shifted. The expression on her face was one I hadn't seen in a long time. It wasn't the friendly smile I remembered. It wasn't the warmth I had come to expect. No, this was different. It was fear. She froze. Her eyes widened as she recognized me, and for a moment, she looked like she was about to run. I felt like I was sinking. Why was she reacting this way? "Jeremy," she said, her voice trembling, though she quickly masked it with a forced smile. "What are you doing here?" I stood still, not knowing how to respond. She was acting strange, almost as though she was hiding something. And then, just as quickly as it had started, she seemed to snap back to normal, her expression smoothing out. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I glanced at the woman beside her, still staring at me. There was a glint in her eyes, something calculating, something unsettling. I had seen that look before, but I couldn't place it. I was just taking a walk," I said, my voice coming out more nervously than I intended. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time here lately," Emily replied, her voice a little too cheery. But I could see the strain behind her words. Her gaze flickered to the woman beside her, then quickly back to me. "Jeremy," she said, as if she were trying to change the subject, "I'd like you to meet someone." She gestured to the woman. "This is Ella." Blinked. Ella. I glanced at the woman who had the same face as Emily. For a split second, I felt a jolt of confusion. The name didn't register. Ella. Who was Ella? But then it hit me. This wasn't just some coincidence. This wasn't just another woman who looked like Emily. I forced myself to speak. "Ella," I repeated, my voice quiet, almost too careful. "It's nice to meet you." The woman, Ella, didn't smile. Instead, she gave me a cold, appraising look. It was almost as if she were sizing me up, analyzing me, trying to figure me out. "Nice to meet you, Jeremy," she said, her voice smooth and calm, but there was something in her tone that made me uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say. The weight of the situation was beginning to settle in. Something wasn't right. Emily was acting like she had something to hide, and Ella's presence, her gaze. It made me feel like I was standing on the edge of something I wasn't prepared for. I glanced at Emily, searching her face for some kind of explanation. She looked back at me, and her expression was a mixture of guilt and hesitation. "This is just a coincidence, right?" I asked, trying to hold on to some semblance of control, trying to make sense of what was happening. Emily's lips parted, but no words came out. Instead, she just stared at me, her eyes filled with a strange mix of emotions: fear, regret, and something else I couldn't quite decipher. The silence between us grew heavier with each passing second, and then, just as I was about to say something more, Emily turned to Ella, giving her a subtle nod. And that's when I saw it. The unspoken understanding between them. The way their eyes met, like they were in on a secret I wasn't meant to know. I took a step back, feeling like the ground beneath me was shifting. My heart pounded in my chest, and the feeling of dread only intensified. I couldn't help it. The question slipped out before I could stop myself. "Why does she look exactly like you?" Emily didn't answer right away. Instead, her eyes flickered, as though she were trying to find the right words, the right excuse. But before she could speak, Ella stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "Because," she said, her voice almost too calm, "I'm her sister." I stood frozen, the weight of Ella's words pressing down on me. "I'm her sister," she had said, but it didn't make sense. Her sister. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. My eyes darted between Emily and Ella, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before me. I had just met this woman, Ella, for the first time. At least that's what I thought. But something felt wrong. I glanced at Emily. Her expression was unreadable, but there was an unmistakable tension in her posture, like she was waiting for me to react, to process whatever revelation this was. "Sister?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, the words tasting foreign on my tongue. "I don't understand." Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out at first. She looked down at her shoes for a brief moment, as if gathering her thoughts, then slowly she met my eyes. There was a flicker of regret, but also a guarded resolve, as though she had made peace with the situation, or at least was trying to convince herself that she had. "Jeremy," she said softly. I should have told you sooner. Should have told me sooner." My mind raced as I processed what she was implying. Was this a joke? Some sick game? It wasn't funny. "You're telling me," I asked, my voice rising slightly, "that I've been divorced from you for 2 years, and now I find out you have a sister who looks exactly like you?" Ella stepped forward before Emily could speak. Her expression still cold, but with an edge of amusement, maybe. There was a strange calmness in her demeanor, like she was in control of the situation. It unsettled me even more. "Not just a sister," Ella said, her voice almost teasing. "A twin." I blinked, my stomach sinking. Twin. I had never heard anything about a twin. Sure, Emily had always been private, but a twin? How had I never known? Emily shifted uncomfortably on her feet. "I didn't know how to tell you," she said, her voice barely audible now, like she was trying to explain away something she had been hiding for years. I shook my head, trying to steady my racing thoughts. This couldn't be real. I was starting to feel like I was caught in some kind of nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. "How is this possible?" I asked, my voice rough, the confusion evident in my tone. "Why would you hide something like this from me?" Emily's eyes flashed briefly with guilt, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned toward Ella, almost pleading with her to speak. Ella stepped forward, crossing her arms in front of her as she regarded me coolly. "Because," she said, her voice low and measured, "she didn't know." I looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Ella smirked, a look that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "She didn't know she had a twin," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm now. "Until a few months ago." Few months ago. How could she not know? Was this a joke? I wanted to laugh, to shake my head, but everything in me was telling me to stop, to listen. Emily remained silent, her eyes not meeting mine. She looked ashamed. "I found her," Ella continued, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "After a long search." She paused, her lips pressing into a thin line. "We weren't supposed to meet like this, but here we are." I turned to Emily, my mind spinning. You knew about her?" asked, my voice cracking. "All this time?" Emily nodded slowly, her eyes finally meeting mine. "Yes," she whispered, "I knew. But I didn't. I didn't want you to know. There it was. The truth, at least part of it. But why? Why had Emily kept this from me for so long? Why had she hidden her twin sister from me, from everyone? Ella stepped forward again, her smile tight. It's complicated, she said, almost dismissively. But you don't have to worry about it now, do you? Emily and I. She paused, letting her words hang in the air, heavy with implication. We've come to terms with the past. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Terms with the past. What did that even mean? This doesn't make sense, I muttered to myself, pacing back and forth. How could you both just pretend all this time? How could you not tell me? Emily flinched, but it was Ella who responded, her voice colder than before. It's not about you, Jeremy. It's about us. We were the ones who suffered. And you. She took a step forward, her eyes narrowing. You never asked. So we never told you. Her words stung, hitting me harder than I expected. I never asked. My mind reeled. Was this my fault? Had I really been that blind to the truth? The silence between us grew heavier, and the weight of the situation settled deeper into my bones. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was missing something important. I need to go, I said abruptly, my voice shaky but resolute. The emotions swarming inside me, anger, confusion, hurt, they were too much to process in front of them. Emily looked like she was about to say something, but I couldn't wait. I turned and started walking away, my steps hurried, my mind clouded. Behind me, I heard them speaking in low voices, but I didn't stop to listen. Couldn't. The truth, however twisted, was more than I could handle in that moment. But as I walked away, one thought kept nagging at me. Why did they both look so relieved? I couldn't sleep that night. My thoughts circled relentlessly, like an unshakable storm. The truth, that Ella was Emily's twin, kept hitting me like a freight train. It didn't feel real. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, the edges of the world around me starting to blur. I'd known Emily for so long, but there was a part of her, a secret part, that I never knew existed. How could she keep something so monumental from me? I had always prided myself on knowing Emily, on understanding her, on the connection we shared. But now everything felt shattered. I needed answers. Why had she hidden this from me? And how had Ella become so involved in all of this? The more I thought about it, the more questions piled up. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through the messages between Emily and me over the years. All the conversations we'd had, the small hints I'd missed. Could any of them have been clues? I combed through them, looking for anything that might explain what I'd just learned. But there was nothing. Not a single mention of her sister. I dropped my phone onto the bed in frustration and ran my hands through my hair. Had Emily really been living this double life? Was I just some naive fool? Suddenly, a text notification popped up on my phone. It was from Emily. Under Jeremy, can we talk? _ I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to pretend that none of this had happened. But I couldn't. The truth had already been planted in my mind, and it was growing like a weed, choking everything else. I quickly typed back. When? I'm at the cafe down the street. Please, Jeremy. We need to talk. _ I stared at her message, then at the clock. It was nearly midnight. I should have been asleep trying to clear my head, but something, something in her message, pulled me toward her. Maybe it was the guilt in her words, or maybe I just needed to understand. I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment, not bothering to tell anyone where I was going. The street outside was dark, eerily quiet, save for the hum of distant traffic. The weight of the night pressed down on me. I couldn't stop thinking about the way Ella had looked at me earlier, the way her eyes had sparkled with something I couldn't quite place. Felt like a game to her, like she was in control. But why? What did she want? The cafe was just down the block, and I arrived within minutes. Emily was sitting at a small table in the back, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. She looked up when she saw me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. Was it regret? "Jeremy," she said softly as I sat down across from her. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I looked at her, my heart pounding in my chest. "I don't understand, Emily. Why didn't you tell me?" She looked down at her cup, her fingers nervously tracing the rim. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered. "I never planned for you to find out this way, but it was too much to hide anymore. Too much to carry." My mind reeled as I tried to make sense of her words. How long have you known about Ella?" I asked, my voice trembling. Emily looked up, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I've known about her for years, Jeremy. We were separated when we were babies, adopted by different families. I found out about her when I was 18. My mind raced. Why hadn't she told me? "I thought I could handle it," Emily continued, her voice breaking. "I thought I could carry on with my life and never have to face the truth. But then Ella found me. She contacted me. And I couldn't turn her away. Not after everything she had been through." She paused, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I never told you. I didn't want you to think I was lying to you. I didn't want to lose you." I stared at her, trying to understand. She had kept this from me for years, but for what reason? Why did you keep it a secret? If you loved me, why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth? Emily's eyes filled with tears as she reached for my hand. "I was scared, Jeremy. I was scared of what it would do to us. I knew you would never understand. And I didn't want to lose you, so I kept her away. From you. From us." I pulled my hand back, my mind racing as everything clicked into place. Ella hadn't been a threat before, but now she was. "But now she's here," I said, the words bitter on my tongue. "Now I know about her, and everything is ruined." Emily swallowed hard, looking down at the table. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted things to get this far." I leaned back in my chair, trying to process it all. "And Ella? Why does she seem so at peace with all of this? I don't understand." She didn't seem upset at all. In fact, it looked like she was enjoying this. Emily's face darkened, her lips tightening. "Ella is different. She's not like me, Jeremy. She's complicated." I leaned in, desperate for answers. "What do you mean? What's going on between you two? What's the truth?" Emily looked away, biting her lip. She wasn't saying everything, I could feel it. She was hiding something that would change everything. "Tell me," I demanded, my voice low and urgent. "What aren't you telling me?" Emily hesitated for a long moment, then finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ella, she's not just my twin. There's more to her, Jeremy. There's more to all of this than you realize." The cafe was too quiet, too intimate, for the storm that was raging inside me. The air between Emily and me had thickened with her confession. Every word she spoke felt like a piece of glass scraping against my skin, leaving scars I hadn't expected to endure. But there was more. I could feel it. The longer I sat there, the more it became clear. Emily wasn't being fully honest with me. The way she had looked away when I asked about Ella, there was something deeper, something darker between them. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. My mind was a whirlwind of questions. The biggest one. What had Ella been hiding? She wasn't just a twin. No, she was more than that. Emily had said it herself. But what did that mean? What was her connection to all of this? The silence hung heavy between us, as if the world had stopped and the answers I was searching for had yet to come. Emily's eyes were red from crying, but she didn't offer any further explanations. Instead, she looked like she was waiting for me to ask more questions, to push further. "Emily," I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. "What exactly do you mean by Ella's not just your twin?" She flinched. Her lips parted, but the words didn't come. She looked around, as if seeking the right moment to reveal whatever it was she had been holding back for years. And then, after a long, agonizing pause, she spoke. Ella. She's involved in something much bigger than I ever was, Emily said, her voice trembling. I don't want to be part of it, Jeremy. But she dragged me in little by little. And now I'm too deep to back out. I leaned forward, my heart pounding in my chest. The pieces of this puzzle were starting to shift, but I wasn't sure how they fit together. Bigger than you ever were. What was that supposed to mean? What does that even mean, Emily? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What's Ella involved in? Emily's eyes flickered, as if she were considering whether to tell me the truth or to keep me in the dark. Finally, she seemed to reach a decision. She's in something dangerous, Jeremy. Something illegal. I didn't want to believe it at first, but she's been manipulating me. And I don't know how to stop it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Illegal. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. This wasn't the same woman I thought I knew. It couldn't be. Emily had always been the straight-laced, rule-following one. And Ella had been nothing but an afterthought, a shadow lurking in the background of our lives. But now she was at the center of everything. Emily, I said, my voice hoarse. What's she involved in? What has she done? She took a shaky breath, then let out a soft laugh that lacked any humor. She's been working for some dangerous people, Jeremy. I didn't want to believe it when I first found out, but now I see it clearly. She's been building a network. Money laundering, black market deals. Things I can't even begin to understand. Froze. The weight of her words pressed down on me like a heavy burden. Could barely breathe. This was beyond anything I had imagined. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come to me sooner? I demanded, my voice rising in frustration. Why are you letting her drag you into this? Emily shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I tried to get away from it, Jeremy. But every time I tried to distance myself, Ella pulled me back in. I thought I could stop her, that maybe I could change her path, but I was wrong. I was silent for a long moment, trying to process the gravity of everything Emily had just told me. Ella, the woman who had looked so serene and confident earlier, was a part of something so dark, so dangerous. It was hard to reconcile that image with the one I had in my head of her. But there was one thing I still didn't understand. And what about me, Emily? I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Why did she come into my life? Why was she in my marriage? Was all of this planned? Emily's eyes widened in fear, as though she had just realized something that hadn't occurred to her before. Oh my God. Jeremy, I never meant for you to get involved in any of this. She shook her head rapidly, tears flooding her eyes again. I swear to you, I didn't know she'd go this far. I didn't know she was going to get close to you. She wanted to get close to you because she wanted to get information. She wanted to keep an eye on you. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. Ella had been playing me. She had used me, had manipulated me into becoming part of her game. I thought I had been in control, that I was the one who had made choices. But I had been so blind. Naive. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. I can't believe this, I muttered, pacing around the table. I can't believe I fell for this. Jeremy, Emily pleaded, standing up as well. I never wanted any of this. I never wanted you to be a part of her plans. But the damage had been done. My whole world was collapsing around me, and I didn't know who I could trust anymore. The woman I loved, the woman I had married, had kept secrets from me. And now her sister, my ex-wife's twin, was at the heart of a criminal operation that I had unknowingly been a part of. I had to find a way out of this. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized. I couldn't just walk away. I need answers, I said firmly, looking Emily straight in the eyes. I need to find out what Ella is really involved in, and I need to stop this. I'm not letting her ruin everything. Emily looked at me, her expression a mixture of fear and regret. Jeremy, please. Don't get involved. You don't know what she's capable of. I have to, I replied, my voice cold and determined. I have to stop her before she destroys everything. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything around me had suddenly become a tangled web of lies, deceit, and manipulation. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep Ella's influence went, and how dangerous it was. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about survival. Emily had tried to warn me. She said Ella was too far gone, that I should walk away before I was pulled into her world. But how could I? How could I leave when my own life had been so intricately tied to hers? I had spent months trying to rebuild my life after the divorce, hoping for something stable, something real. But now it felt like that fragile peace had been nothing more than an illusion, a temporary reprieve before the storm hit. I hadn't told Emily everything I was thinking. How the more I learned, the more I questioned whether Ella had been the puppet master in our marriage all along. She'd made her way into my life so smoothly, so effortlessly. It was too easy. I needed answers. I needed to confront Ella. But how? Where could I even begin? The woman who had been my ex-wife's twin had always been in the background, always quietly watching, never truly part of my life. But now she was everything. She was at the center of everything that had gone wrong. I was pacing around my apartment late that night, unable to sleep, my mind racing. Emily's warning kept echoing in my ears. You don't know what she's capable of. But I couldn't stop now. I needed to know what Ella was hiding, and what she had planned for me. The next day I set off to find her. I knew where she lived. We had spent countless weekends together after the divorce. Her quiet, distant house always a place of mystery. I thought I knew everything about her. About the woman who shared my ex-wife's face, who had been a part of our world for so long. But now I saw everything through a new lens, and I was no longer sure who I could trust. Ella's home was on the outskirts of town, a house that looked as though it had been built with the purpose of being hidden. It wasn't fancy, but it wasn't modest either. It was perfectly neutral. As I knocked on the door, a chill ran down my spine. I didn't know what I was expecting, whether she would open the door with a smile, or if she would look at me with the same cold, calculating eyes that had haunted my dreams since the night I'd learned the truth. When she answered, the shock I felt was evident. She looked exactly like Emily, but somehow different, colder, more detached. She gave me a curious look, and for a moment neither of us spoke. "What do you want, Jeremy?" she finally asked, her voice smooth and controlled. "I need to know the truth," I said, forcing myself to sound confident. "About everything." She raised an eyebrow, as if I'd just made a ridiculous request. "You think you have the right to know everything? After all this time?" Her words were sharp, cutting. I didn't back down. "Yes, I deserve to know why you've been pulling the strings. Why you've been playing with my life like some game." Ella's lips curled into a smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. "You've always been a little slow, haven't you, Jeremy? I thought you would have figured it out by now." Her words stung, but I refused to show weakness. "What game, Ella? What have you been doing? Why me?" Ella stepped aside, motioning for me to enter. I hesitated but stepped inside anyway. The room was sparsely furnished, almost intentionally so, giving the place an eerie, empty feeling. It was as if Ella didn't want to leave any trace of herself behind. As I sat down, my mind raced. "Why did you come into my life? Why destroy everything?" Ella closed the door behind her and leaned against it, crossing her arms. "It wasn't personal, Jeremy. Not at first. But you were always in the way. You were a liability." She paused, watching me carefully for my reaction. "A liability," I repeated, my voice a little too loud, too raw. "I was your sister's husband. How could I be a liability?" Ella's gaze turned icy. "Your marriage was nothing more than a mask. Cover. A way for me to get close to Emily, and to you. I needed information, and you gave it to me, willingly or not." I stood up, my heart racing. "You used me," I spat. "You manipulated me just like you've been doing with Emily all along." She smiled again, a wicked, knowing smile that made my stomach churn. Oh, it wasn't just me manipulating you, Jeremy. Emily was complicit. She always has been. You think she was an innocent bystander? Think again. I took a step back, my legs trembling beneath me. Emily too. I couldn't fathom it. But everything Ella said made sense in some twisted way. Emily had always been distant, always hesitant about the future. Had she known more than she let on? Had she been just as much a part of this game as Ella? Before I could say anything, Ella spoke again. You think you're the first to come looking for answers. You're not. And you're not going to like what you find. I felt my chest tighten. What do you mean? Ella's smile widened and she stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. You don't know the full extent of this, Jeremy. But you will. Sooner than you think. The weight of her words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. As I left her house, my mind spun, trying to process everything she had just said. I had walked into her home looking for answers, but all I had left was more questions. What had Emily really known? How deep was this web and how far did it stretch? And most terrifying of all, what had I just gotten myself into? One thing was clear. The more I uncovered, the less I understood. But there was no turning back now. I had to follow this trail to the end, no matter where it led. I couldn't sleep that night. Ella's words echoed in my mind, twisting and turning, and with each passing minute, the weight of them grew heavier. Emily was complicit. But why? What had she been hiding? What was she really involved in? I had to confront her. I had to get to the bottom of this. The next morning I went straight to Emily's house. I had no more time to waste. The truth had to come out, and I had to know if she had been lying to me all this time. I knocked at the door, my heart hammering in my chest. The moment she opened it, I could see the unease in her eyes. She knew something was wrong. She knew I was about to shatter whatever fragile illusion of safety we had left. Jeremy, she began, her voice trembling slightly. What's going on? Don't play innocent, Emily. I know everything, I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I could feel the tension in the room. The walls seemed to close in around us, suffocating. What do you mean? She asked, her voice faltering now, more guarded than usual. I looked at her, trying to steady my racing thoughts. I know about you and Ella. About the game you two have been playing. You've been using me, haven't you? Her face went pale, and I could see the guilt in her eyes. She wasn't surprised. She had known I was getting closer to the truth, and now it was all crashing down on her. Jeremy, please. Just let me explain, she said, her voice shaky. No more lies, Emily, I interrupted, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and disbelief. Why? Why did you let Ella manipulate me like that? Why did you let her destroy everything? He took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I never wanted any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. She paused, then lowered her head, as though gathering the strength to say something she had kept hidden for so long. Ella. She wasn't always like this. She wasn't always so cruel. My mind was racing. What do you mean? You're telling me you didn't know she was playing me from the start? I didn't know at first, Emily admitted, her voice barely a whisper. But I knew something was off. Ella changed. I should have told you, but I didn't want to believe it. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. You let her manipulate me, Emily. You let me fall for her lies. I was your husband, and you stood by, letting her control everything, I said, my voice breaking. Emily's tears fell freely now. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to stop her. And by the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. I took a step back, my head spinning. Ella had been a master manipulator, but Emily had been just as complicit. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. My entire marriage, my entire life. Had it all been part of their twisted game? Why didn't you ever tell me the truth? I asked, the bitterness in my voice unmistakable. I was scared, she whispered. I was scared of losing you, scared of what Ella would do if I said anything. She promised me that if I stayed quiet, everything would be fine. But I couldn't do it anymore, Jeremy. I couldn't keep lying to you. For a long moment, there was silence between us, broken only by the sound of Emily's sobs. I stood there trying to process everything. The woman I had married, the woman I had trusted, had been hiding this deep secret from me for years. And now I realized, Ella had been the mastermind behind it all. I stepped away from Emily, needing space to breathe, needing space to think. The weight of betrayal was suffocating, and the truth felt like a heavy burden in my chest. I thought about the years we had spent together, the memories, the laughter. But now I saw them through a different lens. All of it had been a lie. "You need to leave, Emily," I said, my voice low and steady, though my heart felt like it was being ripped in two. "You and Ella, whatever this was, it's over." She nodded silently, her face tear-streaked. "I understand. I didn't know if I would ever forgive her. I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. But I knew one thing for sure. I had to rebuild my life without her, without Ella. I had to start fresh." As Emily left, I sat down on the couch, my hands trembling. I had learned the hard way that the people we trust the most can sometimes be the ones who betray us the deepest. But I had survived. And I would continue to survive. Because that's what you do when you hit rock bottom, you rebuild. Months passed. I distanced myself from both Emily and Ella. The betrayal was too much to bear, but over time the pain faded, replaced by a new sense of strength. I had found closure, even if it wasn't the closure I had expected. I never saw Ella again. I wasn't sure what had become of her, and frankly I didn't care. The woman who had shattered my life no longer had a place in it. As for Emily, I tried to move on. We spoke occasionally, but it was never the same. I couldn't forget the lies, the manipulation, the way she had let me fall into Ella's web. But I had learned a valuable lesson. Trust is fragile. And once broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. ****. I would never let anyone control my life like that again. And with that, my story ended. The journey to uncover the truth had been painful, but in the end, it was the only way to reclaim what was truly mine. My peace, my dignity, and my freedom.